So now we move on to a totally different topic. So this is actually, in some sense, so far what we did was what we call prerequisites. That is something that I assume that you already know. And now I'm trying to introduce something that you may not know. Hopefully you probably know this too, but this is little bit now getting out of the prerequisites. And so first thing is that if you have so many numbers and you really can't present all the numbers to somebody, because you can't, nobody wants to listen to 1500 numbers, so you need one number. The best you can do is summarize the whole thing by one number, just one number. What that number is, that number could be the mean of all those 1500 numbers, it could be the median of all those 1500 numbers, or it could be the mode of all those 1500 numbers. Mean, median, and mode. How do you get? So now another term we are going to use is sample. What happens is we use the word mean in a statistical sense, which means in a theoretical sense, which means that if something is normally distributed, we say mean is mu, and if you take one number, you just take one observation, that will not be mu for sure, right? If you take two, the average of those two will not be mu either, right? If you take three, the average will not be mu. If you take maybe million, maybe the average will come close to mu, right? So this average of million is called the sample mean, because your sample is a million observation. And the real thing that you are looking for is called the mean. That is what we call population mean. We don't use the word population, but that is really, if you took infinite observations, then you will get to the population mean. Otherwise, every mean that you get by measurement is a sample mean of a different sample size. The sample size increases, you get closer to the population mean. So understand the difference between the population and the sample, right? Sample is a small subset of the population. So when you hear a survey on the TV, they say that 55% of the people are supporting candidate X, 45% are supporting Y. That's a sample observation, right? They took a small sample and they're making a prediction about the population, whole 300 million people in the United States, which obviously they cannot sample. So the thing is, we are going to sample mean. So sample mean is obtained by taking the sum of all observations and dividing the sum by the number of observations in the sample. That number that you get, we call average, is the sample mean. Sample median is obtained by sorting all the observations in an increasing order, sort them out, and take the middle number. If the number of observation is odd, then you can take the middle number. If the number of observation is even, then you can take the average of the two middle numbers. Sample mode is obtained by plotting a histogram and specifying the midpoint of the bucket where the histogram peaks. So you really have to draw a density function kind of thing, histogram, and wherever the highest, most common thing is, that is your mode. Mode is the most common thing. And so this is done for categorical variables only. Actually mostly for categorical, not only, but mostly for categorical variable. If now remember what is a categorical variable, suppose you have CPU type, 86, x86, x, AMD or whatever, and you have some numbers, and then you are interested which is the most common. Alright, whenever I go shopping, I always look for most common. Because why? Because if million people have tried it and then this one what they liked, maybe there is something in it. So Amazon allows you most popular, most positively reviewed, cheapest, and so on and so forth, right? And so you have to look through many dimensions. One dimension is most popular, which is the mode. Okay, so categorical variables, remember there were 4 types of variables: quantitative and qualitative. Among the quantitative variables, we had discrete and continuous. Among the qualitative variables, we had ordered and unordered. All right. So everything that is qualitative is categorical, whether they're ordered or not ordered. Okay. That means there are certain number of values they can take. If those values indicate some order, then we call them ordered categorical variable. If they don't indicate, so CPU type is a categorical variable, right? Another categorical, so for example, number of disks in a CPU, in a computer, or number of USB port in this laptop, that is what kind of variable is that? Number of USB ports, it's a discrete quantitative variable. It cannot be 2.5. It has to be 2, 3, 4. All right? And even for that, actually, so let me correct myself. Even for that, we could go for the mode. Mode is basically, so what is the probability of one port being is 10%. Very few computers will have one port. 2 is very common, probably the mode. 3 is less common, and 4 is even less common, and 5 is even less common. Right? So categorical variable is basically the categories. Yeah. So that is, in fact, it will apply to both discrete, continuous, as well as qualitative variables. All right. So mode. So we understand how to get the numbers, right? Mean by adding, median by sorting, and mode by finding out the most common. Now, mean and median always exist and are unique. Mode, on the other hand, may not exist. So why they will not exist is because like this. Suppose you have a distribution which has 2 modes, all right? So it's not unique. Now, for this distribution, the mean is here, the median is here, and the mode is here. This is a very symmetrical distribution. This distribution, same thing. There is a mean and median, but there is no mode, because there is no point at which this is higher. For this distribution, the mean is here, the median is less, and the mode is even less. And for this distribution, the mode is here, the median is less, and the mean is less than the median. So all possibilities are there. The mean and median could be on any side. Here, in this case, the median and mean were here, and the modes were many of them, and here 0 mode, there's many modes. Now, which one of these numbers is the right number? Again, I'm going to give you guidelines. And you can change those guidelines. You can change those guidelines to suit yourself when you feel that something is more appropriate. And there are cases when you will come up with saying that, well, I don't think this flowchart applies. I'm going to give you a flowchart which should get you to the right places in most cases. But again, like any other art, there are exceptions. Okay? So the science part is here. But again, the science does not do everything. So first, is the data categorical? If it is categorical, you probably want to use mode, because saying that the median is AMD CPU, nobody cares for AMD CPU if it is the median. Right? Probably people want to know what is the most commonly used CPU. Right? So use the mode for categorical variable. Is the total of interest, sum of these numbers, whatever number we have, would somebody be interested in the sum of 1500 numbers? If yes, then mean is the right thing to do. Again, the right is with a qualification that generally the right thing to do. If the total is of interest to nobody, is the distribution skewed? Skewed means it's not symmetrical. If it is skewed, then use median, otherwise go back to the mean again. So mean can be used in 2 different cases, either because it is sum is of interest or because nothing else fits. So categorical means we generally need the most common option, and that's why actually, I keep giving examples of Amazon, but basically Amazon has a list of they have a list of top 100 of every thing that you're looking for. So if you're looking for something, you go to the top 100 list, find out which is the most common, which is the second most common, which is the third most common, and so on and so forth. Okay? And that is of some value. If it is not categorical, then sum of interest. So we will take an example that will make it more clear. Here, most used resource in a system. So we have many things in a system. We have CPU, we have a disk, and we have memory, right? And then we want to find out which is most used, right? And here the resources are categorical, and therefore the mode must be used. So we just want to know whether the disk is problem, or it is the network which is the problem, or the memory is the problem. So we will use the mode. Inter-arrival time. So we want to know the inter-arrival times of requests. Now, if you add up all the inter-arrival times, the first person came, after that 4 seconds later the second request came, then 4 seconds later third request came, and the sum of these is the total time interval that you measured. So it has some physical meaning, and it is of interest, and therefore mean would be the proper choice. Load on a computer. So you measured the load, it came out 1%, then 3%, then 5%, and so on and so forth. Now if you add up all those percentages, does it have any meaning? It doesn't have any meaning, by the way. So if let's just take two examples. So I measured first hour, it is 25%, second hour it is 50%. So the total is 75%. It has no meaning really, because what do you do with it? So unlike the inter-arrival time, where now this is a difficult concept. When I say it has a physical meaning, you really have to have lots of exercises like this to get used to what the physical meaning means, and then it will click to you right away that your total is of interest, the total is not of interest. So in this case, the total is not of interest, and therefore median is preferable. And second thing is also it is very highly skewed. So most of the time when you talk about the load, systems are always most likely very lightly loaded. So 95% of the time there is nothing going on. 5% of the time there is a big load. Right? So this is very highly skewed. Average configuration. So if you want to find out what is the average configuration of a PC, you will indicate the medians of the number of devices, memory sizes, median, number of processors are generally, again, median, due to the skewness of the distribution. So you will just mostly use that. All right. So what we have done so far is, let's just review that, is that if you need to summarize a lot of numbers, then you see whether it is categorical or not. If it is categorical, then use mean mode, otherwise mean, and if it is total is of interest. If this distribution is, actually this one is, if the distribution is not skewed, then it doesn't really matter whether you use mean or median. Because if they're not skewed, means they're equal, right? Notice this. If the distribution is not skewed, like this one, median is equal to median is equal to mean. Like this one, median is equal to mean. Only when the mean is not equal to median, we call it skewed. So you use the mean, but if somebody says, how come you didn't use the median, then you can say, well, it's the same number. All right. So that, we are going to change the topic. So let's go to the misuse of means. While you want to take the mean of 4, 5, 6, 7, you don't want to take a mean of 4 and 500. They are very different numbers. Okay? Anytime you find yourself adding very different numbers, you know that something is going wrong. And that is one of the tests we will do throughout this modeling thing, is that we notice what is the range of the numbers we are adding. Okay? And so, for example, if we have numbers like this, a system A, we measured for 10 hours, whatever we measured, I don't know what we are measuring here, but the number came out 10. For system B, number 5, 9, 5, 11, 5, 10, 4, 10, 31. Now these numbers are all between 9 and 11, 9, 10, 11, 9, 10, 11. So the sum is 50, the mean is 10, and the typical value is 10. In this case, the sum is 50, the mean is 10, but it has nothing to do with the typical value. Typical value is 5. Well, I mean, typical value actually is not the mode, but here you can see visually that typical value generally it is 5. That's what I mean. I'm not meaning in the statistical sense. I mean in the just visual sense. The typical value is 5, right? So this mean of 10 is not really meaningful because that is misguiding. That my performance is 10. Your performance is really 5, except in one case that you got 31. So that is one problem. Second problem is when you are adding the number, take the minimum, which is 4, and take the maximum, which is 31, take the ratio, which is 8. 8 is probably okay. But if it is any time more than 10 or 100 or something, the higher the number, the ratio, minimum min-max ratio or max-min ratio, you know that you are in trouble. I mean, in case of by adding that number, by adding those numbers. So first thing is that you don't want to add numbers which are very different. Second thing is multiplying. So EXY, the product, the mean of the product is not equal to the mean of the means, product of the means. Mean of the product is not equal to the product of the means. It's only equal in the case of what kind of variables? Independent variables. If X and Y are independent, then yes, EXY equal to EX times EY. If they're not independent, then this is not equal. So you cannot do that. So in a time sharing system, the average number of users is 23. The average number of sub-processes per user is 2. So the average number of sub-processes is not 23 times 2, 46. Because that there is a correlation between these two. If the number of users is high, people don't span many sub-processes. On the other hand, if there are no other users, we do 1500 things at the same time. So they are correlated variables particularly. So you cannot just multiply the two means to get the. Alright. Second, taking a mean of a ratio with different bases. So we saw ratio games, and we saw that every time the denominator is different, then you cannot just add them up, those ratios. So this will be discussed a little bit more later on, but right now you understand that if you are you're adding up the ratios, and if the bases are very different, then that is you are getting into trouble. Now mean itself is of many different types. First, there is arithmetic mean that we just saw a minute ago, that is simply adding the numbers, but then there is also a geometric mean. Geometric mean is obtained by multiplying and taking the nth root. And it is used if the product is of value, if product is of interest. And we'll see examples in a minute. So the performance improvement in 7 layers is as follows. Now 7 layers of a networking protocol. In computer networking we talk about 7 layers. So the first layer we improved by 5%, second by 28%, third by 40%, and so on and so forth. So what is the total improvement? Okay. To find out the total improvement, this is like basically what you have to do is, if the performance was 1, with the new first layer now we have 1.05 performance. With the second one we have 1.28 times better performance, and so on and so forth. So we multiply these numbers 1.05, 1.28, 1.10, 1.08 and so on and so forth, and take the 7th root, we will get 1.13 minus 1 is 0.13. So 13% is the average improvement per layer. You cannot just add up these numbers and divide by 7 to get, because they are ratios by the way. Remember, percentages are ratios. Right? So that is one thing that you will notice in this case is, oh, these are ratios, so we cannot just add them up. And in this case, the product is of interest. Not the product of these numbers, but the product like this is of interest. We really need to know total. If the performance was 1, and we use this system, the total performance will be basically the product of all these 1 plus those numbers. Right? So that is how we will get per layer. So multiplicative matrices are very common in computer science, believe it or not. And for example, cache hit ratios. So you have level 1 cache, level 2 cache, level 3 cache, different levels, they all multiply. Cash-miss ratios, same thing, hit ratios and miss ratios. Percentage performance improvement between successive version. So you have version 1 of a program and then you improve by 10%, and you take number 2, version 2 and version 3, you improve by another 15%. What do you have to do? You have to multiply and take the root. Average error rate per hop on a multi-hop path in a network. Same thing on a network, you are going every hop. First hop you did 10% better, second hop you did 20% better, and so on and so forth. You have to multiply and take the mean. So these are examples of multiplicative means. Now if you have ratios and you want to take geometric mean, then the geometric mean actually turns out to be either way you do, it's okay. So you take a geometric mean of these numbers, you can take the geometric mean of the numerator, divide by the geometric mean of the denominator, or you can take 1 upon geometric mean of the reverse. They all work out the same number. So the geometric mean of a ratio is the ratio of the geometric means of the numerator and the denominator. The choice of the base does not change the conclusion. And because of this property, sometimes mathematicians recommend that whenever you have a ratio, you should do geometric mean. But it turns out that that is not always the case. Basically, there are cases where you really have to think about whether the numerator and the denominator have any physical meaning. For example, if I gave you geometric mean of x's, are you interested in that for any reason? If you're not interested or nobody is interested, then this ratio, geometric mean ratio doesn't make any meaningful thing. So it's little bit complicated stuff than just making that always, for ratio you take geometric mean. Finally, there is one more mean which is called harmonic mean. Harmonic mean is just the mean 1 upon n, 1 upon x1, x2, xt. You take all of those, sum them up and divide by n and then do 1 upon that. So it's basically defined by this formula, harmonic mean. And this is used whenever the arithmetic mean can be justified for 1 upon x. So elapsed time of a benchmark on a processor, elapsed time themselves don't add up, but if you take 1 upon those, they add up. In the ith repetition, the benchmark takes ti seconds, and so suppose the benchmark has n million instructions, so then the xi from the ith repetition, the performance is n instructions divided by the time. This is the MIP rating. And then you get the second one, second observation, the m doesn't change, but the ti changes for the second benchmark. And ti changes because this is a random number. Every time you do it takes different time for the same benchmark. So the m remains the same, but the time is changing. In this case, you cannot give the average time simply by adding. You should do because that has no physical meaning, but this one has a physical meaning, 1 upon pi. And so you would use the harmonic mean for this particular number. So average MIPS for a processor is basically you have to divide by, again, same way. So you will get this way. Okay, so this is actually a case of an example where you did not, even though this MIP is a ratio, you did not take the geometric mean because we have m divided by t1 through tn, 1 upon n. This is not a geometric mean. And so this is more of a counter example to the common advice that for ratios you should always take geometric mean. And so, and therefore this is a preferred metric here, m upon 1 upon n, t1 through tn. If m's were different, then you would do it like this. You will do this arithmetic mean on the top and the arithmetic mean on the bottom. Now similarly, weighted or harmonic mean is defined as with weights w1, w2 and so on and so forth. I don't think we will use it that much, but just case just to complete that there are other means. If all the weights are equal, then we call it harmonic mean. If the weights are different, then you would get for example, in the case of benchmarks, we will use weights proportional to the we could use a weight proportional to the number of instructions in that benchmark. If it is a small benchmark, it is a small weight. If it is a large benchmark, it is a large weight. And so then you would get similar to what we did before. Sum of all the instructions divided by sum of all the times. So now let's go to the ratios. If you have the ratio A1 upon B1, A2 upon B2, all the bases are different. And so the question is, what is the right way to do it? So there are many cases. If the sum of the numerators and the sum of the denominators both have a physical meaning, the average is the ratio of the averages. Now here is the thing, basically, is that is anybody interested in the total sum of A's and total sum of B's? If they have some physical meaning, then you can just sum them up and take the ratio, which is equal to saying that we take the ratio of the means. Okay, I will give you an example in a minute, but is this thing clear what we are saying? Is that if you want to take the ratio, mean of a ratio, then first question to ask is the numerator sum and the denominator sum is of interest. And so here's an example. We measured the CPU utilization for 1 hour. The busy time was 45%, second hour 45%, third hour 45%, fourth hour 45%, and then for 100 hours it was 20%. If you just add up like this, the sum is 20%, 200 and divide by 5 is 40%. Is that the average utilization? No. Average busy time? No. Or average busy percentage? No. Basically the right percentage is to add up the total measurement duration and the total busy time. Total measurement duration is 104 hours, and we have to figure out how much this CPU was busy for in those 104 hours, and that will give you the right utilization over 104 hours, right? So to do that, it was busy for 0.45 hours in the first hour, 0.45 hours in the second hour, and so on and so forth. You add up and you get 21% as the mean CPU utilization. So in this case, the total sum of the CPU busy time is of interest, as well as the total sum of the time is of interest, and therefore we just do it numerator and the denominator separately. And therefore we see this thing that the ratios cannot always be by geometric mean. So this is more complicated than just geometric mean. A geometric mean of utilizations is useless, as we saw. Okay. So now the key question is, when do you think something has a physical meaning? And as I said again, I will emphasize this time again, is that first in the beginning it will be wrong sometimes, but after doing several examples, several exercises, you will start getting the feeling as to is this sum has a meaning. So there are some special cases. If the bases are all same, then it's very easy, because if the bases are all same, then all you have to do is just add up the numerator or take the mean of the numerator. And so if you have resource utilization which are measured over the same period, not 1 hour and 100 hours, everything is on 1 hour, then you don't have to work very hard. You could just do the arithmetic mean. If the denominators, if the sum of the denominators have a physical meaning, even though the denominators have different values, but the sum has some physical meaning, then you would basically use this kind of formula where the average is the sum of the numerator and the sum of the denominator. Another way of saying this same thing is to say that we do the harmonic mean of the ratios. Okay, these are the ratios A upon B1, we take the harmonic mean. Do the harmonic mean, we do B1 upon A. B2 upon A, and so on. Add up, divide by n, and do 1 upon. So same thing basically. Okay. So in this case, the denominator have a physical meaning, and that's why we need the harmonic mean. If the numerator and denominator are expected to follow a multiplicative property such that AI is generally equal to C times BI, where C is approximately a constant and is being estimated, then C can be estimated by geometric mean of AI BI. So that's the thing, is that if that there is a multiplicative relationship, then yes, then you do geometric mean. And so example is program optimization. Just like we thought about the 7 layers program optimization, this is same thing. If then we could say that each thing multiplies. Another thing is that if these things are log, if the log of these things makes sense, in that case, you could just do the arithmetic mean of logs, which is same thing as geometric mean of ratios. If you do arithmetic mean on the log scale, so when you add up in the log scale, that is like multiplying in the normal scale. And when you take the average in the log scale, you are doing the geometric mean in the actual scale. So here is an example. The code size, so there is some kind of optimization technique, and they tried it on many different benchmarks. On first benchmarks, before optimization, the code size was 119, it became 89, so the ratio is 0.75, and so on and so forth. So what is the average performance of this technique? And obviously, the thing to notice here is that basically we assume that the number is very close to some ratio C, which is this thing, so we can take the geometric mean and get that, assuming that one, right? Another method would have been if somebody, again, the main thing is that you have to be able to justify why you are doing whatever you are doing. So somebody could justify geometric mean by this method, that we are just following A equal to CBI kind of formula, and there is a ratio here which is close to this 0.79. On the other hand, somebody could say, well, I think the total code size has a meaning, because that will mean that, this could be, for example, 7 parts of a program: part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4, part 5, part 6, part 7, part 8 parts, and this is the total program. And therefore, this is the total program length, this is the total program length after, and this is before, and therefore the ratio. However, and these 7 workloads are not like that. So, that argument could be, somebody could argue, well, look, I am interested in Bubbler, but I am not interested in adding Bubble to Sieve. I don't use Sieve at all ever. So these benchmarks are totally, you don't just add up. So it depends upon what these benchmarks are. And if there is a reason to believe that they would add up in some situation, then we add up these numbers, and we add up these numbers, and we get the ratio that way. So let's just summarize this part before we go to the next part. We talked about 3 different ways to get a single number out of a sample. What are those 3 ways? We call it, actually the name I didn't use in the class today, but that is called the index of central tendencies. Okay, it's a complicated name. And the problem with that name is nobody in the real world knows that. So you cannot just tell them, look, the index of central tendency is this. So I don't use it that much, but statisticians call it. So anyway, there are 3 indices. First one is mean, mode, and median. And there is no reason that one could not be more than the other. All right? And we saw all kinds of situations. Then we had a flow chart about how do you select between the 3. Right? Again, that's a guideline. Then we went into the mean, and we said there are 3 kinds of mean: arithmetic mean, geometric mean, and harmonic mean. And the very simple thing to remember is that if some things really naturally add and the sum is of interest, then arithmetic mean. If they naturally multiply and the product is of interest, then it is geometric mean. And if it is just the 1 upon something is more of interest than that x itself, then the harmonic mean is more interest. And we saw sort of many examples. And again, you really have to do a lot more exercises in the book and feel comfortable. The exercises are there and the answers are there in the book too. So, you can check out yourself. And we saw some examples here about different things, and in every case we have one answer, but somebody could argue for the other answers, and we have to have that is the whole thing, is that you have to have a reason for that answer. So here the geometric mean looks okay because these are very different workloads, as opposed to if there are parts of the workload, part of the whole thing, then some would be of interest, and we would do it differently. So then let's move on to the variability. Now mean is one number, but sometimes it is a meaningless number, and that's why this quote. Quote says, then there is a man who drowned crossing a stream with an average depth of 6 inches. Would you cross a river where the average depth is 6 inches? Depends upon what?
How deep it is in the middle.
Variability. Whether the depth is 6 inches constant or is it 6 inches and 600 feet. Right? So that's the thing, is that the mean doesn't give you all that information. So you really need to know the variability. And so the mean is here and the variability is very little, no problem. But if the mean is here and the variability is large, then mean has no meaning. Here, this is what I call mean is meaningless. So now there are indices of this person. So that was in indices of central tendencies. Now these are indices of this person, how widely numbers are distributed. The first way of indicating is a range. A range is the easiest. You tell them that, look, I took this measurement, the minimum is 5 and the maximum is 1500. So they know that this much is the variability, 5 and 1500, min and max. When you specify the two numbers, min and max, that gives you an idea of variability. Second thing you could do is the standard deviation or variance. And again, there are three ways: variance, standard deviation, and coefficient of variation. The preferable method is out of those three. Variance, because variance nobody can even guess how to interpret it. Right? Standard deviation is better than variance, and coefficient of variation is better than standard deviation. As you could say, well, the mean is 100 and the coefficient of variation is 0.2. People like us who are dealing with these statistics all the time, they will understand 0.2 what it is, right? On the other hand, range might be more easily understood by normal people who do not understand coefficient of variation. They would understand that the minimum is 4, maximum is 1500, and the mean is 200. So variance. Second is percentiles. So you could say, well, the lower 10 percentile is so much and 90 percentile is so much. So this is where most of the numbers are, between 10 and 90, right? Semi-interquartile range. Actually, I have a slide on each of them. So this requires a little bit more explanation than I want to do it on one slide. Semi-interquartile range, and then mean absolute deviation. So let me hold on to those two. Range. So range is max minus min. Larger the range, higher the variability. In most cases, range is not very useful. Why? Because range generally means outliers. If the maximum is 1500, it's good to know that it could be 1500, but most people are at 10. And so both the min and the max keep going in one direction as the sample size increases. If you have just one sample, your range is this much. Two samples, the range goes up and up and up and up and up and up and up. Right? And so while this is very easy to understand, and they don't need a statistical background to understand the range, but at the same time, you are losing some information. You are not really telling them that most of the numbers are here. You are just telling them outliers. The range is not very useful. The minimum comes out to be 0 and the maximum comes out to be very high. And unless the variables are bounded, the maximum goes on increasing. So if you had a normal distribution and you took 2 million samples, you will say, well, it goes from minus infinity to plus infinity. It doesn't really give you any indication. On the other hand, if you would have said that the variance is so much, or this coefficient of variation is 0.2, that is much more useful than knowing that they go from minus infinity to plus infinity. Right? So that is like hiding the information. So the variable is bounded and goes on. So basically that's the thing. Okay, range is useful if and only if there is a reason to believe that the variable is bounded. If there is a reason to believe that this will not go above this, then you say this is the maximum. There is a reason to believe this will not go below this. So this is the maximum. This is the minimum.